Buddy from South 40 Bowl, Kelly Thompson along with Rick Smythe. It's the South 40 Open, and we had 77 contestants to begin with, Rick. Now we're down to 5. It ought to be a great tournament.
That's right, Kelly. We have Gary Petros, #1 qualifier. Scott Buckingham's in the show, Ron Mohr, Randy Hill, and also Richard Teel. So it should be an interesting show today.
Well, first match of the afternoon coming up next. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to beautiful South 40 Bowl on Diamond Boulevard. Kelly Thompson along with former pro Rick Smythe. It's the South 40 Open, and what you're taking a look at now on the screen is a list of all 77 bowlers in this week's tournament.
That's right, Kelly. It's the largest field we've had for these tournaments. We had 7 ladies join. All the bowlers came throughout South Central Alaska. And we're down to the top 5 now, with the winner receiving $700. Entry fee is $50.
Well, remember, too, we've got another tournament coming up, so if you're making plans, bowlers out there watching our program this afternoon, we've got another tournament on March 19th. March 19th, and you can get more information about that tournament by calling the fine folks here at South 40 Bowl. The telephone number 522-3414. That's 522-3414.
And Kelly, I'd like to personally take this opportunity to thank KTVA 11 for having interest in bowling and showing this show.
Now let's go to the action. Now let's join the first match in the 4th frame. Picked out a good mark, but comes up empty. Leaves 3 pins. Not a tough spare to pick up here for Randy Hill.
He should move a board or 2 to the right from his strike target and shoot at a strike target to convert this spare.
I think he was listening, Rick. He picked it up.
I think I'll start charging these guys for this. Richard Teel's back up on lane 4. He has 49 in the second, and Randy Hill has 57 in the second. The strike here would keep him the same distance away, but he needs to start striking. See how that ball reacts.
And nice one for Richard Teel. He needed that one, and he got it. Richard Teel, 46 years old. He's experienced, as we mentioned. He's been bowling 13 years. Works at the Anchorage Daily News here. Originally from Ainsworth, Iowa. So he's a Midwestern boy. Trying to maybe put a string of 2 in a row here, and he does. Back-to-back strikes for Richard Teel.
Okay, that gets Richard within 2 pins of Randy Hill, depending on what Randy does here. Richard Teel has 69 in the third with a double. Randy's up in the fourth and 77 in the third. This is an important shot for Randy. On the outside line.
And he picks it up.
You can see playing that outside line when the ball comes in from the corner of the lane has a lot of power on it and makes those pins bounce around. Good shot of Randy concentrating. You see Richard concentrating also.
Randy likes to go to work with that towel, doesn't he?
That's right, Kelly. He was wiping off the oil or the conditioner on the ball, taking off the ball so that the ball would hook a little bit more. The first shot, he hit the pocket on lane 3. The next one, he missed the pocket to the right. See what kind of shot he makes on this one.
Coming up, the outside mark, and picks up the strike again. And he's happy about it. Randy Hill puts 2 together.
Once again, you see the pins mix from that outside angle that the ball's using. Okay, Richard Teel needs to strike here to be 2 pins up on Randy Hill.
Looks good, but ooh, not quite. The 10 pin on the right side. Well, Richard came in with an average of 184. And highest game ever, 290.
For the tournament, Richard's averaging 199, so he's about 15 pins above his average. And that's how you win the tournaments and get on the TV show bowling a little bit higher than your average.
Picks up the spare on the right side, Richard Teel. First match of the afternoon. Richard Teel, the 4th seed, against Randy Hill, the 5th seed. 77 bowlers this week in the tournament. And that sets up a prize money purse of $2,079. And there's Richard Teel with a nice strike there.
right, Kelly. First place will pay $700, but the winner of this match has to bowl 3 more matches and a lot of 3 tough opponents right in front of him.
Randy Hill, he's experienced too. He's been bowling for 10 years, but just 26 years old. So he started bowling at a young age. Goes with that outside mark again, and there he gets it. It was a late one, but he got the strike.
It's again the outside line using the mixing on those pins. That's right, Kelly. You talked about him starting bowling when he was 16. The Young American Bowling Alliance, the junior program within town, is an excellent program for the bowlers to get started. And in 1992, bowling will be an Olympic exhibition sport. So there could be some faces from Anchorage. Okay, let's watch Randy up on lane 3. He has a turkey with 3 strikes in a row. He's on the lane that hasn't been his favorite. There again, that lane's giving him a little trouble.
We see that so much, where a bowler will just have a great success with maybe the right lane in Randy's situation here, but when he comes over here in lane 3 on the left side, it creates some problems for him.
Well, I think he just got off to a bad break on when he left the 7-10. It wasn't a bad shot for him. He just got a bad break as he chalked it.
Left one. He's unhappy about that one.
Okay, this situation, Kelly. Randy has 183 through the 8th. Richard Teel has 138 in the 6th, but he's on a strike. This strike here would put him up about 5 pins. This is an important shot for Richard.
Trying to go for the strike, Richard Teel. Oh, and he's not going to quite get it. Needs 2 pins on the left side and shakes his head a little bit. Maybe he'd like to have that ball back.
We're going down 9th to 10th frame again, Kelly.
This has been a close one all the way. Richard Teel and Randy Hill. Richard trying to go for the spare right here. Picks it up. Nice one for Richard Teel. Kind of interesting when you look at both of these bowlers' highest game ever. Pretty close. Richard Teel's bowled a 290 in his career, and Randy Hill a 289. Good even match here. First match of the afternoon. South 40 Open. Glad you could join us on KTVA Channel 11.
Stuck at the approach, and the ball skidded a little too far for him, leaving the 1-2-8. He is 8 pins below Randy Hill, so he needs to convert this spare, get up in 10th frame, and throw some strikes. Randy Hill will be coming up in the 9th and 10th frame, so this match isn't over.
He should be able to convert on this spare. No, he leaves 2 of them.
Dug himself a hole on that one. The best he can shoot is 213. Randy Hill is going at a 223 clip. Match isn't over. Randy start with his right foot. He's a 4-step delivery. There's 1, 2, 3 and slide. Using the outside line.
And he got it.
Okay, let's see what happens, Kelly. He's zeroed in on lane 9, but lane 10, he's had some problems. Remember, he left the 7-10. He made a few adjustments that might not have been necessary. And I'm not so sure he's comfortable with lane 3. Coming down 10th frame. Needs to mark to shut out Richard Teel.
You're right. His success so far here in this first match has been in lane number 4. Now he steps up on lane number 3, the one that's been giving some problems. Let's see if he can pick up a strike. On the way, no.
There you go. There's the situation. He must pick up this spare, this split, to close out Richard Teel. And you can see, remember from last TV show Richard Teel was on, the pressure didn't bother him. He went up and threw some good shots.
Boy, a tough spare right here for Randy Hill. It's a tough split for him.
Shooting cross lane.
And he leaves the pin on the left side. Left the 7 pin.
Okay, he finished with a 211. Richard Teel needs to strike out for 213, so Richard needs 2 strikes and a 9 count to win. This is a must strike. This one and one more. Let's watch him.
Back against the wall, Richard Teel. No.
Not quite enough.
Not quite enough for Richard Teel.
Once again, the ball skid a little bit too far. So as we watch Richard Teel shoot his spare, Randy Hill would move on to bowl against Scott Buckingham, and we'll be with that
when we come back. So Randy Hill defeats Richard Teel here in our first match of the afternoon and goes on to face Scott Buckingham, and we'll have that match for you coming. Now let's join the second match in the third frame.
That's a good part of Randy's game, is that shoulder, the way he opens it up. Right there.
A tough spare to pick up here for him. Almost. Gave it a good try, but left the 10 pin on the right side. Scott Buckingham steps back up. Scott doesn't take a lot of time, does he? He steps right up there and gets down that lane. He's out the mark. Ooh, got some good action, but left the 10 pin again on the right side.
You're right, Kelly, and that's a good point to point out to the bowlers. Just get up there and get set and go. The more you think about it, the more your conscious mind gets involved, and the chances of making a poor shot are greater. The top bowlers on the tour, and likewise the top bowlers around town, don't take a lot of time. They get up there, get set, and go. So we watched Scott go cross lane for the 10 pin.
And he picks it up. Boy, he nailed it too.
He straightened the ball out and threw the ball harder and changed his wrist position and went after it. You can see he's loose. That was something we didn't see last time he was on the show. He's going through his ritual, putting some rosin on his finger holes, wiping the ball off. See him set his feet. Get set. 5-step, the short one. 2, 3, 4, and plant. Good shot.
Good action. Got the strike, Scott Buckingham.
Okay, Kelly's situation. Through 3 frames, Scott Buckingham has 59. Randy Hill has 74. Randy's up by 15 pins. But remember, he had a 29-pin handicap advantage.
He's up on that favorite lane of his, lane 4. Let's see if he can get something good to happen. Yes, he does. It came late, but he got the strike, and that's the first strike here in the quarterfinal match for him.
I think he'd rather bowl on lane 4 the whole tournament, Kelly.
If he had his choice, I'm sure he would.
Of course, that's probably never happened to any of our viewers. One lane they liked, and the other lane they wish they didn't have to bowl on. But he needs to get this lane 3 lined up. He needs to start throwing some strikes on lane 3 if he wants to be competitive against Scott. Once again, this is an important shot for Randy on lane 3.
No. Boy, he leaves those 3 pins again. We were talking to Randy a little earlier before the match and talking about heroes. His hero is Al Unser. He always, when he grew up, Randy Hill always wanted to race Indy cars, but he's in a different sport right now. A little bit safer, I'm sure, and he picks up a nice spare there, Randy Hill.
Scott Buckingham's up on the approach and ready to go. He's on a strike. This one would put him within 5 pins of Randy.
And he gets it. Putting the pressure on here, Scott Buckingham. Lifetime resident of Anchorage, Scott Buckingham, born here. 26 years old.
He's been a member of the Professional Bowlers Association, being out on the tour. Has gained some great experience out there. You watch him once again blowing the thumb hole and set his feet.
Yeah, Scott Buckingham, he won the Fairbanks Open in 1987, and you mentioned the All-Event City champion here in 1988. He's an experienced one. And he picks up another strike. Boy, he's got a turkey there, 3 in a row for Scott Buckingham.
Here, Randy Hill must start striking. You can't let Scott Buckingham freewheel against you.
And Scott, he's excited. Can't see him quite in the angle there, but he is just standing up. He's not even sitting down. He's excited. Putting the pressure here on Randy Hill. And Randy, not quite. He needs to get the strikes, as Rick mentioned, and not happy with something on his follow-through there. He's kind of moving his hand, trying to figure out maybe what he's doing wrong here.
I think that's the end result of lane 3. You start talking to yourself, and pretty soon you make an adjustment on your good lane, and you lose it. He's liable to get up on lane 3, Kelly, and throw a strike at this point.
Going for the spare here. He gets it. Remember, he had a 29-pin advantage when we started. And that has basically disappeared here against Scott Buckingham.
There's about 7 pins difference now with Randy Hill being down 7 pins. Of course, Scott's on a turkey. You see Randy set himself, set in his hand position. Good shot of him. Nice ball.
Got it. And there is his first strike, I'm sure, for him on that
You're right,
free
Kel.
lane.
You're right. He missed his good lane. Now he has his easy lane. Hit his tough lane, something like that. As we watch Scott Buckingham up in the 7th frame, if he gets this one, it'll put a lot of pressure on Randy. This is an important shot for Scott. Let's see what kind of reaction we get.
Mark, maybe no. 10 pin. Danced a little bit on the right side, but wouldn't quite fall over for it.
See, put a little extra into that shot, knowing that it was an important shot for him. Put the match away. And when you put a little extra on it, sometimes you leave the 10 pin. Get tapped.
Should have no problem with this spare, and he does it. He nails it. Scott Buckingham. Scott will step up now to lane number 3.
That's right. Scott has 138 through the 6th. Randy Hill has 132 through the 6th, but Randy's on a strike. Scott's working on the spare, so we're coming down the last few frames once again. Scott's using the outside line, stand on the right on the approach. Straight up 5 board.
Got it.
Strike. Okay, here it is, Kelly. Randy must get this strike. He's down 6 pins. With this strike would put him up a few pins. Not only that, if he gets this strike, it'll loosen him back up on lane 3. But this is a crucial shot for him, both mentally and physically.
He takes his time. Randy Hill. No. To the 10 pin on the right side. Boy, he'd like to have that one back.
Okay, with the conversion here, there are once again 6 pins separating the bowlers. Randy being 6 pins down. But that was a good shot for Randy. He was lost a little bit on his favorite lane, which is 4. And he came back and at least hit the pocket. The 10 pin could have gone down. But he needs to convert this and throw another strike in the 9th frame. Watch this.
No, doesn't pick it up. Boy, lost the concentration there, Rick.
He sure did. Now let's see if he can pick it back up. You see he's walking a little bit quicker. Definitely didn't need to make that mistake. Needs to throw a strike here and then sit down and get his thoughts back together.
Won the city doubles tournament back in 1981. Randy Hill, no, the 7 pin won't fall over for him. Scott Buckingham is putting on the pressure, and Randy really feeling it here.
With this spare, and if Randy strikes out, he will shoot 210. And Scott Buckingham is going at a 218 clip. So it's come down 10th frame. He needs to...
Oh, and he doesn't pick it up again. That's a tough one for Randy Hill. He just completely lost chances at those last 2 spares, picking him up.
Scott needs to get some marks. There's one of them.
Bowling good, Scott Buckingham, as you mentioned, Rick, in this tournament. And he showed it here in the quarterfinals. Good look for Scott Buckingham.
If Scott strikes out, he will shoot 248. Needs a good count at this point to be the winner of the 2nd match. And there's your winner of match number 2.
Scott Buckingham defeats Randy Hill here. So Scott will go on to the semi-final match here this afternoon, and he'll face Ron Mohr. And we'll have that match for you coming up next from South 40 Bowl and Diamond Boulevard. Bowling tip and former pro bowler Rick Smythe today talks about the strike.
Hi, the ultimate in sport of bowling is throwing that perfect strike. And do you know how many pins the ball hits on a perfect strike? Let's look at it. First of all, the ball has to hit the 1-3 pocket. So there's 2. So how many do you think? Does the ball hit 3, 4, 5? Let's take a look. As the ball comes into the pocket, it hits 4 pins. The one pin goes into the 2 goes into the 4, goes into the 7. Then the ball hits the 3 goes into the 6, and then the 6 goes into the 10. Finally, the ball hits the 5, and 5 goes into the 8, and then the last pin that hits is the 9 pin. So there you have it. On a perfect strike, the ball hits 4 pins. So with that, good luck and good bowling.
Well, here we go. Semi-final match this afternoon. Scott Buckingham against Ron Mohr, and Scott with that victory over Randy Hill, Rick.
That's right. In match 2, Scott shot 232 against Randy Hill's 189. And this could be a great match coming up here. You have the 2 premier bowlers in town, 2 of the premier bowlers. One of them has any handicap. And you see Scott Buckingham getting up on the left lane. The ball skidding a little bit too far.
Well, Scott Buckingham, he, as you mentioned, a very experienced, very good bowler here in the Anchorage area. He's, in fact, bowled not 1 300 game, but he's bowled 2 perfect games in his career. Going for the spare here and picks it up on lane number 3.
Okay, Ron Mohr has been bowling well in Anchorage for a number of years. When they talk about bowlers and tough bowlers in town, Ron Mohr is one of them they mention. And Ron currently is has a high Anchorage area average, 217, high average last year for the Anchorage area. That, by the way, is records. You watch Ron throw his first shot.
Puts it up there on lane number 4 and picks up the strike. So Ron Mohr sitting back and watching the action here. Comes in as the number 2 seed. And his first roll of the afternoon's a perfect strike. Ron has also bowled 2 300 games in his career. He's 32 years old. Him and his wife Sandy have 1 child. Originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's an air traffic controller here at the FAA here in Anchorage. Good look at Ron Mohr.
He's an animated player. If he starts throwing some strikes, you're liable to see him do anything. Clap his hands, jump in the air. He wanted that one against Scott. Put some pressure on each other early. This will be a mind game between these 2 bowlers. It's going to be a situation of who can put pressure on the other bowler.
Loser of this match will walk away from the tournament this week with $270 in prize money. As we mentioned, 77 bowlers entering this week's tournament. Ooh, he can't quite pick up the spare there, Ron Mohr. And it doesn't take long, and Scott Buckingham steps right up there. And no, not quite the strike. Leaves the 7 pin on the left side. $2,079 in prize money in this tournament. And it's been a good one this week, and there's another one coming up too, Rick.
That's right, Kelly. The tournament next coming up is March 19th and 20th here at South 40, and the entry fee is $50. And the winner of today's show is going to receive $700. Not a bad investment.
Not bad at all. Buckingham picks up the spare. So just give them a call here at South 40 Bowl if you want more information about the tournament. But it's a nice chance. The number, of course, 522-3414. South 40 Bowl on Diamond Boulevard. And we'll have it for you, of course, on KTVA Channel 11.
Left lane South 40 Bowl for Scott Buckingham.
Oh, nice one. Boy, he liked it, too. Liked the looks of that one.
You know, it's interesting, Kelly. Scott Buckingham has averaged 233 for this tournament. Ron Mohr's averaged 235. We've gone 5 frames, but there's only 2 strikes. This will be a mental game between the 2 of the bowlers, and there's 1 open. But there's going to be pressure back and forth on each one of them.
No, tough one for Ron Mohr, and he's unhappy about it.
It's a big 4.
That's a tough split. That's going to be a tough spare. Ron Mohr ready to go now. He's down here early to Scott Buckingham.
That's right, Kelly needs to get the 2 on the left, as he does. Now Ron needs to settle down and throw some strikes. He's throwing strikes. You can see him nod his head like, yes, needs to settle down, relax a little bit, start getting up and throwing some strikes. And Ron's capable of doing that. He's had 1 strike and 2 opens. He's capable of going off the sheet.
Yeah, it's still early in the match, in the 4th frame for Ron Mohr as he steps up. Semi-final match here this afternoon. Going for the strike? No. Leaves the 10 pin on the right side. The winner of this match, of course, will go on and face Gary Petros, the #1 seed for the championship.
And that's someone we haven't talked about, Gary Petros. He's bowled well throughout this weekend. He's threw some clutch strikes against Ron Mohr. So he's liable to come out and shoot 240 against whoever wins this match. Let's watch Ron there to spare. 10 pin. Scott Buckingham's up on the approach, ready to go. He's in the 4th frame. He's on a strike. This would be an important shot for Scott. There you go. Once again, we talked about that in an earlier match. When you need one, you amp it up a little bit more. You put a little more into it. Make those pins fly a little bit higher. With this conversion, Scott will be up by 22 pins. And with that strike, if you'd have carried that 10 pin, it'd been more like 32.
Scott Buckingham got the good technique and picks up the spare.
Both bowlers are on the spare in the 4th frame. Scott Buckingham has 59 in the 3rd. Ron Mohr has 37 in the 3rd.
Holly Bent's city champion. A good look at Scott Buckingham.
See Scott get set. Take a little more time. He's bowling against Ron Mohr, a little tougher opponent.
No, still that 10 pin on that right side. Boy, he'd love to have that one back.
Again, he's amped up, throwing the ball extremely well. Just throwing a little bit too crisp, a little bit too hard. A little bit of pressure. It's a mind game between the two bowlers. As we watch him go cross lane for the 10 pin, converts it.
Picks it up.
Okay, situation for Ron. See the bowlers clap their hands. Big sports between the two of them. Ron needs to start throwing some strikes. He left the big 4 or went high on this lane last time. See if he makes an adjustment. See if he makes a good shot. See him looking at his feet, setting his ball. He looks up, and he goes. You can see he doesn't waste a lot of time. He just sets and goes. Let's watch him.
And picks it up the strike. Nice one for Ron Mohr. I'm sure that one feels good for Ron. First time in one of these television tournaments for Ron. You're mentioning the sportsmanship a little earlier. It's funny, we were talking to both of them before, and we asked them their toughest opponent of the 5 finalists. Ron Mohr said, well, it's Scott Buckingham, and guess who Scott Buckingham said? Ron Mohr. So they both really respect one another's bowling and experience. A good rear view, and their approach to Ron Mohr, and another strike for him on lane number 3.
Okay, this situation, Kelly. Ron's lined up. He knows it. Scott knows it. Scott's lined up. Going down the last half of the game. Each one of these bowlers is going to have to throw some strikes. Put some pressure back on the other bowler. Scott's in the 6th frame as he throws the ball.
The outside mark, and there he gets the strike. Didn't leave the 10 pin this time. He nailed them all. And he feels good about it. Well, pressure building here in our semi-final match.
That's right, Kelly. And you notice Scott is re-racking. He doesn't like the way the pins look, but I would believe it's a nerve situation here. He feels Ron sitting back. He knows Ron's lined up. He knows that he has to throw some strikes. So by pushing the reset, he just took a little bit of time to get his mind together, get his thoughts back together. You see, this time he really didn't look at the pins. He just needed that time to set himself. As you watch him throw in the 7th frame. Important shot.
On the way, no. That's some good action there, but it's a tough split for Scott Buckingham.
That's right. The pressure we talked about, taking a little longer time re-racking. He threw the ball a little bit too hard. Ball didn't quite finish into the pocket. Left a 5-7. He hasn't left one of those the whole tournament. It's down to a must situation. Needs to pick this up.
Goes for the 5 and comes up empty. Trying to hit the outside of the 5, knock it into the 7, and unfortunately comes up with neither of the 2, and Scott unhappy about that one. That was a tough break for him. Chance for Ron Mohr really to put the pressure on.
That's right, and you can see Ron feel the pressure. We can watch Ron's reaction as you see him exhale. He's going to throw the shot. He'll probably throw a great shot. He'll probably hit the pocket. If he strikes, he's liable to be 4 lanes down. Very animated player. See him getting set? See how he sets and he goes. There you go. There he
Nails
is.
it. And he feels good about it. Ron Mohr really putting the pressure on Scott Buckingham here.
That's right. Ron was in the fourth frame. He was 21 pins down. Now Ron's up. Ron's up by approximately 13 pins. But Ron also needs a strike.
He's working on 3 strikes in a row right now, trying for number 4.
Ron's up in the 8th frame. Getting set once again. What a study. Sitting here watching ball. Plants, goes. Great shot. Look at this.
Wow, he got it.
There you go. See
Boy,
him over
another
2
one.
lanes.
Boy, another one. And Ron Mohr, to say the least, is excited.
He's pumped up. Okay, Scott has his back to the wall. He knows he needs to throw some strikes to the premier bowlers in town. Must throw some strikes right here. Put some pressure back on Ron. Working in 10. A little bit too much speed.
Shakes his head. What do I have to do to hit that 10 pin and pick up a strike here? And you're right, Rick. He's running out of time here on our semifinal match.
Hey, Kelly, let's watch Scott's. He takes a 5-step approach. His 4th step, let's watch how long it is right there. And then we'll watch Ron Mohr when he gets up. Takes a 5-step approach. His 4th step is a little longer than Ron. And that's where Ron generates the power. We'll watch it again. Let's watch his 4th step. We're watching his right foot in front of the left foot as it goes. He's making an adjustment right in front of our eyes. How about that? There's 1, 2. Watch this. Right, see how long that is? That's about a foot or foot and a half in front of his left foot as he throws a strike.
Good camera work to be able to see that, too, from Scott Buckingham. Oh, Ron Mohr will step up now. Working on 4 strikes in a row. Trying for number 5 here. He's got a string going. Ron, really, he bowled a 270 to win the 1986 Northwest Open, which is an excellent tournament.
This once again is an important shot. If Ron gets this one, he's liable to be down by lane 40 jumping. But this crucial shot needs a strike.
Needs a strike and got it.
There you go.
And he goes down to 1 knee after he gets it. He is excited. He is just pumped up right now, Ron Mohr.
Okay, let's watch the footwork again. We'll watch how short Ron's footwork is. On the step right before he takes 5 steps, we'll watch his 4th step again. He's going to start with his left foot. Watch how short the right foot is. 1, 2, right there. See how short that is? And that's
Strike, yes.
That's where he generates that power off that step.
Ron Mohr is just red hot right now. He has just got the momentum and is really going to town.
First strike in the 10th frame. If Ron strikes out, he shoots 237. The best Scott can do is 204. Scott's liable to get up and throw some strikes, finishing out in the 10th. Ron's loosened up some more.
Another one in a row.
Okay, Scott's up in the 10th frame. A little relaxed, more relaxed, knowing that he can't win the match, and the reaction is solid in the pocket.
Wow. He hit it right on the nose. When he doesn't need the strike, he gets it.
Okay, let's stay with these guys. A study here. Ron's up in the last ball of the 10th frame. If he finishes, he shoots 237. And exactly what he has.
Wow. A great match for Ron Mohr. Scott Buckingham finishing out now. Ron Mohr finishes with a 237.
Okay, one more shot. Once again, I talked about the mind game. You can see Scott shaking his head, knowing that he tried a little bit too hard. A little bit of pressure on both bowlers. It's a great match, though. As we watch Scott finish up his game.
And there he is. Finishes out with 2 strikes in a row. So Ron Mohr defeats Scott Buckingham, Ron Mohr will go on to our championship match this afternoon. He'll face Gary Petros. Final score here in the semifinal, Ron Mohr 237, Scott Buckingham a 204. Our championship match coming up next. Stay tuned. Here we go. The championship match this afternoon, South 40 Open on KTVA, and it's Gary Petros, the number 1 seed, against Ron Mohr. Gary Petros steps up first on lane number 3, Rick.
That's right, Kelly. As we watch Gary Petros throw his first shot, high qualifier for the TV show, and that's why he is.
Wow, a strike right off the bat. Gary Petros, he's been here before, and as we mentioned, Ron Mohr, first appearance on the television tournament, but he bowled a very, very good match in that semifinals against Scott Buckingham, and I'm sure he'll try to carry it over here in the championship match. These players are playing for $700 in first place prize money, second place $350, so quite a difference money-wise from first and second as Ron Mohr steps up on lane number 4, and he nails a strike. So both bowlers start out on a very positive note with the strike in the first frame.
That's right, Kelly, and they're basically bowling for $350. Whoever wins this wins $700, like you said. Loser gets $350. But Ron is down 19 pins. Gary Petros has a handicap of 19. Ron doesn't get any handicap.
So Mohr, basically, Ron has to spot Gary Petros, 19 pins. Lane number 3 here for Ron Mohr, and it doesn't make a difference. He nails another strike, and he's excited about it. Boy, he is on a roll right now, trying to keeping that momentum carried over here in the championship match.
Earlier in the tournament, Kelly, both these bowlers bowled. Ron Mohr forced Gary Petros to strike out, which he did. The match was 242 to 234. As we watch him throw,
and he got it. Another strike for for Gary Petros, and man, oh man, these bowlers are going to it. Gary, been bowling for 10 years, born in San Antonio, Texas. Of course, he's a retail leasing specialist for the Jack White Company here in Anchorage. Good look at Gary Petros. Trying for a 3rd strike in a row. Yes, make it 3 in a row, and that's all we've had here so far is strikes between Ron Mohr and Gary Petros. Ron Mohr trying to relax a little bit here.
Ron doesn't know what to expect against Gary. Ron's getting up thinking, this guy's coming out throwing strikes at me. I've got to start throwing some strikes back and still pick up 19 pins. We watch Ron get up in his 3rd frame. And
yes,
strikes.
He's got a strike.
Both these bowlers throw the ball differently. Gary goes straight up the boards. Ron throws the ball to the right a little bit more as you see him exhale. Ron turns the ball up more. Gary goes down the boards, not turning up so much. And when Ron turns it up, he throws it further out on the lane. And you can hear it. Let's watch him as he releases his ball. Listen for the thud after the foul line. Of course, he's on 3 in a row. Both bowlers have a turkey. Runs up in the 4th lane. Let's listen right there. Hear that noise?
And another strike.
Okay, now let's listen to Gary's. We talked about Gary throwing the ball straighter, and he sets the ball down sooner. He's up on the 4th lane, on lane 4, in the 4th frame. Let's listen for that thud of his. It's much quieter.
You can really tell a difference. Oh, how about that? Somebody finally doesn't get a strike. Leaves 1 pin on the left side, the 7th pin. Remember, Ron Mohr playing against a handicap here. Basically, he spots Gary Petros 19 pins.
Okay, Gary standing across the lane, shooting at his 7th pin. Once again, he throws the ball straighter. Uh-oh, uh-oh.
No, doesn't pick up the spare on the 7th.
That was a mistake. Let's see if it cost him. He knows now, obviously. A little frustrated. You see Ron in the back, knowing that he has a chance in the match now. Gary needs to get up and start striking again.
Had a string of 3 put together. And no, he's going to leave one pin here on the lane number 3.
Okay, Gary needs to stay with it. Pick up his spare. Sit down, get his thoughts back together. See Ron loosen up his arm in the back. Gary stands cross lane, stand on the left side, shoot his 9-pin. Good view.
Gary Petros.
Uh-oh.
No. Misses the spare again for Gary.
There again, if he had the ball hooked a little bit more, it would have come back. Now what Ron's doing is exactly what Scott did earlier. He's pushing a reset. You can see him reach down and reset the pins. Not so much because the pins are off spot, just because he wanted to take a little more time and watch and see if he even looks at the pins this time. Now he's taking a deep breath, knows this is an important shot. Wiping the ball once again, his towel, his foot, taking a glance at the pins. 4 in a row. This one would be number 5. This would put Gary Petros on the ropes. So we watch Rod get set.
Looking good, and it is good. Another strike.
That's what makes Ron so tough. When he needs a shot, he throws it in the pocket. Many times he strikes. Tough competitor right here. And he will be representing Alaska in the U.S. Open to be held in Showboat Lanes in New Jersey in April coming up. So Alaska will be represented well. As we watch Ron set himself, watch where he puts his ball. He'll move it to the side underneath his shoulder as he starts his approach. And
no,
not today. 5 in a row leaves a 7-pin.
the streak finally ends for Ron Mohr. Not a tough spare here to pick up from. He went back to Cincinnati in a big tournament back there and bowled a 300 and walked away with the honors there. You mentioned he's won quite a few tournaments and trophies. A good look at Ron Mohr, 32 years old.
Look at this.
No.
There's the pressure of the championship match.
Talk about surprise.
As Ron walks by, he says, brilliant. Pressure on everyone. This is a situation. In 5th frame, Gary Petros has 115. Ron Mohr has 138, but he has an open. Gary Petros needs to get up and throw a couple strikes right here. Get back in the ball game.
Nope. He's going to leave 4 pins. All of them on the left side. Might not be happy with his follow-through here so far. Well, 77 bowlers entering this week's tournament. And we've come all the way down to our final 2, our championship match between Gary Petros and Ron Mohr. Gary picks up the spare. Nice job for Gary Petros.
We talked in the last match about how short Ron Mohr's footwork is. Let's watch Gary's. The step before his slide is a lot longer. This one right here. See how long that is compared to the last one with Ron? And as we watch him go through the head pin. And that's, once again, where Ron generates his power, by that short step. Situation. Gary Petros has 133 in the 6th. Ron Mohr has 147 in the 6th. Halfway there. Gary needs to pick up the spare, get his thoughts back together, throw some strikes.
Picks up the spare, Gary Petros. Oh, Ron Mohr started out so good with 5 strikes. Saw that end in the 6th frame and looking to start up another string right here.
Up in the 7th frame on the right lane.
Ron Mohr likes these television tournaments because of course, the additional experience they can give a bowler. Bowling in pressure situations just like that as he puts another strike on the board.
Kelly, you mentioned Ron having won many tournaments. In 1982, he won the 700 Club tournament, which is a statewide tournament. And March 5th and 6th, the 700 Club will be bowled at East 40 Bowl, and I'm sure Ron will be there to defend his title. Statewide tournament, many tough bowlers coming down at East 40. As we watch Ron get up in the 8th frame, he's on the strike. He's 14 pins up. This one would really put some pressure on Gary.
And he does put the pressure on. Ron Mohr, another strike for him.
He's an animated bowler. He's pumped up.
Boy, he bowled so well in that semifinal match, and he's carried it over here into the championship match. Oh, so well for Ron Mohr. Gary Petros steps up, and his back is hitting against the wall right here. He needs some strikes, and there's one for him right there.
Gary hangs in there. He did that against Ron earlier, so this one could go down 10th frame, and it's not over.
We got another tournament coming up, South 40 Bowl. Mark your calendar, March 19th and 20th. Of course, you can give the fine folks at South 40 Bowl a call for more information, 522-3414, their telephone number. There's another strike for Gary Petros.
Gary can strike out for a 243, Kelly, and Ron is going at a 240 clip. So we're coming down 9th to 10th frame again. We talked so much about Ron is God. We haven't mentioned Gary. He's liable to strike out and win this tournament. Ron's up first, though. Ron's up in the 9th frame. If he strikes out, he can shoot 267. Up in the 9th frame, he's on a double. This is an important shot for Ron. He's not sure.
Yes.
Look how far away Ron is. He's 2 lanes away. Animated bowler.
He goes all the way down to lane number 9 there, celebrating that strike. It was a big one for him, and he got it. Oh, another good championship match. Boy, we've had some great tournaments and some great matches here on KTVA from South 40 Bowl, and another one here for you this afternoon with Gary Petros and Ron Mohr.
And if Ron strikes right here, Kelly, he's a winner. You'll see him put everything into this shot. He strikes, he locks the tournament.
Here we go. And yes, the $700 in first place prize money will be Ron Mohr. He needed it, and he got it, Rick.
See how pumped up he is. He's excited.
Well, he went after it. And starting off with a string of 5 strikes in a row in the first 5 frames, that didn't hurt Ron Mohr at all.
If he gets this one, he will be in the 260 range. And
yes, gonna put a period on the end of this victory here. I'm sure he'd maybe just like to strike out, come up with a good score.
you can see he's a little more relaxed than he was before. Let's see if he takes a deep breath. He doesn't take quite as deep as he did before. He's a little loose, a little more relaxed, knowing he's won it. I'm sure him and Sandy, his wife, will enjoy the $700 first place prize money and 267.
267 for Ron Mohr, and that's going to do it. Final score of the championship match: Gary Petros loses, comes up short to Ron Mohr. Ron Mohr with a brilliant 267, and he'll walk away with the first place prize money of $700. Back to meet our final 5 contestants when we come back from South 40 Bowl on KTVA Channel 11. Stay tuned. Welcome back to South 40 Bowl. Final score of our championship match: Ron Mohr 267, Gary Petros 222. Rick Smythe got the presentation of the award money. 5th place to Richard Teel, $185. Randy Hill, $225 for 4th place. Scott Buckingham, 3rd place, $270. 2nd place to Gary Petros, $350. And congratulations, Ron Mohr, $700 first place award money. For Rick Smythe, this is Kelly Thompson. So long from South 40 Bowl.